The race to replace term-limited Tampa Mayor Jane Castor is already one of the most crowded in the city's history. 11 candidates and counting filed, and the election is still nearly a year away. The front runner in both name recognition and fundraising is former Mayor Bob Buckhorn. He left office in 2019 with a 75% approval rating and nearly $2 million already in the bank. He faces two sitting city council members, Lynn Hurtak and Bill Carlson. Also in the mix, we have urban designer Taryn Sabia and former Hart Board member and business owner Gary Hartfield, plus 6 others. The election is going to happen on March the 2nd, 2027. How do you all see this? Is such a crowded political scenario. Do you think that this will lead to an opening for a newcomer, or do you think that folks were going to stay and vote for the names that they know? Akash, I'd like to start with you.
Yeah, I think they're going to vote for who they know and who they got to know. Over the last decade or so, when Mayor Buckhorn's been out of office, he's been out in the community meeting these businesses that are relocating, and he's telling the Tampa story. And the city council folks that are relatively new, Carlson has been there 8 years, and Hurtak left shortly after. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, the money is there with Mayor Buckhorn, and money's going to play a big factor because it's about getting message out.
Patrick, how do you see this? Because in the last special election, we saw a newcomer win.
You know, the City of Tampa election is a very intimate election. 50,000 people are going to vote. In the past, it hasn't been newcomers to Tampa who've participated. It's been long-term residents. And there is an issue with long-term residents here afraid that their neighborhoods are being impacted by the new development. There's a lot of people, I'm one of them, who doesn't recognize the Tampa I grew up in anymore. And it doesn't feel like it's a bunch of Tampanos hanging out in Waterside. It's, you know, people from all over the nation, all over the world. And so, you know, if that hardcore group of voters are the ones who are going to make a decision, I think the issue is going to be is what kind of development do we want? Do we want a Tampa for the people here, or do we want a Tampa for somebody to move into? And that could mean that Bob Buckhorn, who's got a lot of money from developers, could end up facing a backlash from people who don't want developers to have this much influence in our community.
Nina, what are some of the other issues? Housing affordability is one you've talked about in your stories.
Yeah, housing affordability, definitely stormwater, how Tampa's preparing for hurricane season. You mentioned the special election as well. I think several of Mayor Buckhorn's opponents would point to a string of recent local elections, city council, even in 2019 when Mayor Castor won her election, or Brian Nathan just a few weeks or months ago at this point.
Beat out Tomko.
Yeah, exactly. Winning elections against candidates with a lot more money who spent a lot more money. And so I think opponents are going to point to that trend. And I think some of the experts I've spoken to have said, it doesn't just matter how much money you have on hand, but it matters how you spend that money.